Hi, my name is Judd Halenza. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We're really excited to show you the webinar that we prepared for you covering the shortcomings of QuickBooks. Next slide. I'd like to introduce Ty Abilene. He's Vice President of Consulting here at AlphaBold. He should be joining us a little later. Presenting today is Ilya Budimir, the technical resource on this webinar. He's AlphaBold's NetSuite Practice Manager. And I'm Judd Halenza, the ERP Client Engagement Manager. Next slide. We're going to run through the agenda real quick. Today's agenda will cover the limits of scaling with QuickBooks. We'll then delve into NetSuite solutions for those issues. And then finally, we'll discuss why AlphaBold is your best choice as a partner to implement and support NetSuite. Next slide. Let's quickly review some of the reasons why people look to actually replace QuickBooks. While QuickBooks is a great solution, it does have some significant limitations. Often people are able to work around those limitations initially, but as their business grows, those flaws become too big to overcome. While there are many reasons that people upgrade to NetSuite, these are the 5 most common. Next slide. Let's start with reporting. If you work in QuickBooks, you tend to work in a perpetual fog when it comes to reporting. You end up spending just as much time in Excel as you do in QuickBooks. Out of the box, NetSuite reporting capabilities are vastly superior to QuickBooks. For example, NetSuite lets you consolidate inventory reports from multiple warehouses and consolidate multiple company and multi-entity financials. NetSuite also lets you quickly search for your vendors, customers, invoices, etc. And the best part with NetSuite is that you can do all of this from within a single dashboard. Hey, Ilya, let's go ahead and show everyone how easy it is to manage reports in NetSuite.
Absolutely. So what I'll do is I'll show you a little demo relative to how easy it is to manipulate dashboards, move portlets around. Dashboards consist of many KPIs. Here I have a number 250 out of the box KPIs and reports. Also note that NetSuite provides real-time reporting, so whatever you see on a dashboard is real data available to the entire organization and the users based on their permissions. So let me start with the video. So I'm going to start playing here. So this is a typical NetSuite dashboard. This is what you see when you log in. This is a role with many permissions, so you can see almost all of the reports, all of the KPIs. What you see, these rectangles are called portlets. We can move these portlets around. You can see how flexible the interface is. And all of the users can actually do that unless you lock that permission or that ability. Here I'm just demonstrating how easy it is to move these portlets around. So I'm going to click on Personalize link here, and you're able to bring in as many portlets as the interface permits. So for example, I can bring in all the KPI meters, I can bring in lists, I can bring snapshots, report snapshots, information about orders and transactions. You can also have RSS feeds, you can have quick searches. That's another portlet that's available. So I'm going to close this personalize screen, the slider. Also, you can see in the top right corner, this is our role, and we can change that in the top right corner. We can also add shortcuts in this portlet. So I can, for example, add a shortcut to Google. So I'm just going to demonstrate how to do that quickly here. So now if I click on Google, it will open up in a new tab. So for example, if you want to add a link to your bank, you can actually add it here. Again, these dashboards can be published to any role and any user. So I'm going to click on report section. I just wanted to show you I'm not going to go into too much detail. I just wanted to show you the reporting section. And these are all of the out-of-the-box reports. I can expand them all so you can see how many there are in the system. So again, I don't want to focus too much. I think next report that I'll show you is the income statement. Let me see here. So I'm going to just open up an income statement report quickly so that you can see out-of-the-box income statement report. Okay. All right, so I'm going to move to the next slide. Judd, do you want to talk about the second limitation?
Sure. Let's discuss inventory management in QuickBooks. While most of you are running QuickBooks know this, there is no visibility into what's going on in the warehouse. QuickBooks is three-way matching. They do have it, but it's pretty tough to use. It's time-consuming and complex. There are no lot number serialized inventory tracking or BOM management support in QuickBooks. The warehouse management system in QuickBooks is basic at best. And finally, there's no demand planning module at all in QuickBooks. Ilya, can you walk us through NetSuite's inventory management?
Absolutely. I have a prepared demo for you where I will demonstrate what BOM looks like or bill of material looks like in NetSuite. I'll also demonstrate how you can actually purchase the assembly items in NetSuite. So I'm going to show you how to receive a serialized product. Then I will talk a little bit about three-way matching in NetSuite. On the fourth point, I will discuss available to promise feature in NetSuite that's tied to demand planning. And then I will finally or lastly demonstrate how to fulfill serialized products in NetSuite, as that is not something that you can do with QuickBooks. All right, so I'm going to run this video quickly for you. So we're again on NetSuite dashboard. So this is a serialized assembly item or bill of materials. So it's just a basic item record or item interface in NetSuite. I'm showing you here the average cost, the last purchase price, the total value of the product that we have. And this is one of those BOMs that we can actually make, build, or we can purchase. So you can see the inventory on hand. We can see all the components that relate to this finished good. Okay. So let me fast forward a little bit here. So next, I will actually show you how to receive the orders. So I clicked on Receive Orders screen, and now I can actually see all the purchase orders that are open. What also I can do is I can go to the list of purchase orders. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I have a link here that I've created. So this is a list of purchase orders. I'm going to review them here, and I'm going to open one of them. So here I'm going to pick the last purchase order on the screen. I'm going to click on it. And I am going to see the inventory that's on order. So it's 30 units on my purchase order. And that's what I want to receive. Actually, I'm going to receive only a couple of units because this is serialized inventory, so I don't want to enter all that inventory in there. So I'm going to just receive 2. But even though I set this, I'm going to show you how you can do that very quickly in a second. So I'm going to click on inventory detail. So 2 units. And what I can do is I can type in the serial lot numbers that I'm receiving. And again, you cannot do this in QuickBooks. This inventory management capability does not exist in QuickBooks Online. So here we have 2 serialized numbers. I can also use Express Entry Screen. Here I can actually paste the CSV file. So that allows me to mass enter the serialized numbers. And here I can also auto-generate. So for example, if if I'm generating the serialized items or serialized numbers, I can enter them here using any convention that I want. So here I'm going to click OK. So I've actually added two serial numbers, and I'm actually receiving two items into my inventory. So now let me pause this for a second so I can show it to you. So now I have on-hand quantity 29, and I also have quantity that I'm receiving, which is 2. So if I go back to my purchase order, I can see that it's partially received and that it's also pending billing. So we can only bill 2 units because we've received 2 units. Okay? Meaning billing means really purchasing invoice. So we can pay a purchase invoice for 2 units only because we only received 2 units. Now that leads me to another topic, and that's three-way matching. When it comes to three-way matching, the proper procedure is to verify, validate the item receipt against the PO, and also to validate vendor bill against the item receipt and a PO. So what we can do in NetSuite is we have a native approval workflow relative to three-way matching. And it consists, it's actually set on the vendor bill record. So when it comes time to actually pay a vendor bill, the workflow will check the PO price versus item receipt price or versus a vendor bill to ensure that there are no variances between what's on a PO from the pricing standpoint and the vendor bill or the item receipt. So to that end, we can actually set tolerances on the item record, and these tolerances can be set on the quantity and on the amount. And then based on these tolerances that we set, so in this example, I have vendor bill versus purchase order quantity tolerance. So here what I'm saying is if I have more than 3 variants, that's more than 2 on a vendor bill versus the purchase order, my vendor bill will be routed for approval to the appropriate person within the organization. Otherwise, my vendor bill will be approved and I will be able to pay it in the system. Equally, we can do the same thing for the amount. So in this case here, I have a vendor bill versus purchase order amount tolerance, which is 0.1. This is 10%. So if the amount variance between, let's say, a vendor bill and a PO is more than 10%, my vendor bill will be routed for approval so that the appropriate person within the organization can approve it, and then we can make a payment against that vendor bill or purchase invoice. So let's continue. So I'll fast forward. All right, so finally what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to leverage ATP or available to promise. So let's think of it this way. So available to promise is a feature in NetSuite that allows sales reps to actually see what the available inventory is for a given product, and then also gauge what supplies on the water or in transit, and then understand from the sales order interface when they'll be able to fulfill the orders for the client. So I'm going to demonstrate that for you in a second. So here we have an item, and this is our quantity on the sales order level. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the expected ship date, and there's a little icon called check availability, and that's your available to promise. And here for the for 2 units, the earliest available date is 28th of September. Now, if I change this quantity to 50, I see the different earliest available date for that inventory. And I can see what this information depends on, and that's the purchase orders that are outstanding and that are in the system with their appropriate expected receipt dates. Okay? So that's what drives that earliest available date that you just saw. So that just gives the ability to sales reps to actually see when these goods will be available for the fulfillment and for shipping. And that's incredibly useful information for the sales force. So now I've saved my sales order, and I will show you, I will demonstrate how it will be fulfilled. Obviously, different roles will be able to process the fulfillments, but for this demo, I'm just going to the next step directly from this screen. And not everybody will have the permission to do this. Typically, it's the warehouse personnel that will be able to process this. So here I can pick my location, or that can be defaulted. I'm going to pick the serialized numbers that are available in the system. I can also use express entry, just like I showed you before, where you can actually paste a CSV file. So here I have a status of my inventory, that's good, and I processed that and I saved it, and now I've fulfilled or started the fulfillment of my sales order. And notice the status of this fulfillment. Everything is shipped. I can create a bill now from the fulfillment record, or I can actually create an invoice from the sales order. That would be our next step in the flow. All right, so I want to stop for a second. Judd, are there any questions from the panel regarding this demo and regarding this functionality?
No, I think we're okay. We can keep going at this point. If you do have some questions, go ahead and please type them in to the chat field, and we can use those questions at the end. We can have Ilya address those questions then. Alrighty. So your company has grown to include multi-entities. Multi-company transactions then are a must-have. It's a big reality check if your business requires intercompany transactions and consolidation of financials. You've truly outgrown QuickBooks. It's a need-have. Multi-company needs simply cannot be met with QuickBooks, but they can be met with NetSuite. Ilya, can you just kind of walk us through how this is handled in NetSuite?
Absolutely. Thank you. So in NetSuite, you can have unlimited subsidiaries. You also with OneWorld, as is the version of NetSuite that supports unlimited subsidiaries, you can also have consolidated financial reporting out of the box. So that's integrated or part of NetSuite core functionality. Also, this environment supports multi-location, multi-inventory location, and also multi-currency as well. So that consolidated financial view consolidates based on your parent or holding base currency. And if you have subsidiaries underneath with different currencies, NetSuite translates those currencies into your base consolidation currency. So what I'm going to show you is I'm not going to show you all the intercompany transactions because that would take too long, but I will show you the financial reports and how the consolidation works from financial reporting standpoint. So I'm continuing on to my previous demo, and I'm showing you an income statement here. I'm going to pause for a second. If you look at this income statement, you can see that it's broken out by subsidiaries. So you can see my financial rows on the left side, that first column, and then on a column view you can see all of the subsidiaries and the appropriate amounts for each subsidiary. And you can see that I can break down my view or my column view by subsidiary, and you can see every subsidiary in each column, and you can see then the totals here. You also will see the context, and that's the consolidated context. So I'm looking at the holding subsidiary and the parent subsidiary, and then I'm seeing all of the children, all of the entities underneath. So I'll continue playing this video. So these are my totals, as I mentioned. And now I'm going to focus on the columns. So here we can break down columns by location, department, class, and any segment we want. In addition to regular segments such as department and classes, we can create something called custom segments. And there are financial segments that we can use and flag on transactions, or tag on transactions. Now, what I'm showing here is department hierarchy. So I'm showing the administration department, professional services, and sales. And you see how I'm breaking out the sales by department. Unfortunately, in QuickBooks, you do not get that functionality. Unfortunately, QuickBooks is not a robust ERP system that will handle this type of segmentation of your financials. So here I'm showing you the details. So I actually clicked on one of the links or one of the amounts, and I can show you the detailed transactions on the income side. I can collapse and expand. So this is a highly flexible report. So I can collapse, expand, and I can also export this into PDF and Excel. It's very easy to do. So I'm going to close this report. Then I want to show you a couple of more reports. So I'm going to collapse this. And then I will show you some of the saved or reports that, out-of-the-box reports that we customized. So I'm going to show you the inventory report. As this is something that's very important for wholesale distribution and manufacturing. Really, that inventory tracking, inventory profitability, ability to see your inventory levels in one place, in one financial system. Okay, so this is an example of an inventory profitability report where you can see, let me pause this for a second, for each subsidiary, so each context, I can actually see my on-hand inventory, my on-order inventory, my percent of total revenue, etc. And you can do that for each entity within the organization. You can also, again, change columns. You can switch things by department, by different segments, item or product segments, and things like that. Division as well. All right, so I'm going to go back to the reporting section, and I'm going to show you some basic reports around AP aging. So these are out-of-the-box reports that you can access as soon as you provision, or as soon as NetSuite is provisioned to you. And this is just a basic AP aging summary report. Here you can actually break it down by subsidiary, as I mentioned it before. So for this particular subsidiary, I didn't have any data, so I'll just fast forward it a bit. You have different aging options, so you can do aging by transaction date, by due date, so you can adjust all of that. So this is the aging detail. So when you click on the amount, you actually see all of this detail per customer, so you see all of the transactions that are in that system, or that are in that report. All right, finally, I'm going to show you an AR aging report. So there it is. This is your AR aging. These are the customers. These are the aging buckets that you can adjust. So it's very similar to the AP aging report. And you can find your customers by typing in the footer the customer name, and the report will locate it and highlight it for you. So I'm going to click on this link. Actually, I want to click on a transaction just to show you how easy it is to access transactions from your reports. And everything is maximum 2 or 3 clicks away. So from the invoice, I can get from the report, I can get to the invoice very easily, and then from the invoice, I can get to my customer, and then I have a 360-degree view around the customer record. Okay, and that is achieved by actually clicking on this dashboard link, and this will show all the transactions, all the records related to that customer, and all the relevant KPIs as well. And this is just out of the box canned. Everybody can access this based on their permissions. So now that we're on permissions, I want to show you something. I want to actually fast forward this a little bit and then show you how easy it is to change roles. So here I'm logging in as a sales executive or senior executive, and based on my functional needs in the system, I will see different transactions than, let's say, an administrator. So as an executive, this is the dashboard that I would see typically, and these are all the KPIs, the metrics that are relevant to me. Also, the navigation is a little bit different, and it's suited and tailored to my role. As an employee, I am assigned to a specific subsidiary, so I can be limited to seeing only the data for that entity, if needed. Okay. So that is it for this demo. I will let Judd speak about the for limitation.
Yeah, actually, in Ilya, I do have a question that came in, and I apologize. I didn't see it initially, but I actually think it does relate to the next part of this, which is the big issues with QuickBooks is the lack of industry-specific clients. I've got a question about using bills.com with NetSuite. I do know that they integrate, but it is in reference to the billing process. So as we talk about the limitations in QuickBooks around auditing industry compliance, really the biggest issue is that there are no segregations of duties in QuickBooks. That, along with accounting entry validation, it can lead to potential compliance challenges with tax filings and regulation reporting. If you need more internal auditing capabilities, then you need NetSuite. Ilya, can you kind of talk about compliance as it relates to NetSuite? And, because we do have that question around billing process, maybe discuss that in addition.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I understood that correctly, that Bill.com question was related whether Bill.com can integrate into NetSuite. It wasn't necessarily related to three-way matching, or was it?
No. Bill.com is something that you can use on top of. It does work with NetSuite. It's much more like a.
But what was what was the question? Was the question whether it can integrate to NetSuite, or was the question whether how it works?
Will we have a need for Bill.com?
Can you repeat that again, please?
Will we have a need for Bill.com?
Well, you definitely. I have a lot of clients that use still Bill.com with NetSuite. Okay, because it's a very useful application for managing AP, managing bills. So you can NetSuite can definitely replace Bill.com. But there are a lot of flows around Bill.com payments and things like that. It's just easier for a lot of smaller to medium-sized companies to use it and leverage it. They're used to it. So if they're used to it, they kind of like to integrate it with NetSuite, which is available, and the integration is really good. But yeah, NetSuite can definitely replace Bill.com. And there are things that we can do in NetSuite to replace that functionality. As for the compliance issues, let's talk about what's available from the certification standpoint. So NetSuite is SOC 1 and SOC 2 and PCI compliant. You'll ask, what about HIPAA? NetSuite can be configured to be HIPAA compliant, and this is very easy to do in NetSuite. It's essentially a couple of, first of all of the fields and forms can be encrypted. So configuration is very simple to do for HIPAA. It's usually work done with an officer who can actually determine what the requirements are, because these requirements may be different for various companies. So NetSuite in its core is very easy to configure with very little customization and changes of the forms. You can achieve that HIPAA compliance. Furthermore, I just want to talk a little bit about the roles and permissions. The role and permission management provides a high level of internal system security and enforces the segregation of duties. The warehouse clerk, for example, should not be able to adjust purchase orders unless the organization requires that. Similarly, the purchasing manager should not be able to receive products as that may not be their responsibility. So you see that roles can be adjusted and adapted to a user based on the company requirements. Lastly, the system provides an audit log or trail that can easily be exported and shared with financial auditors or system administrators. So that's really easy to export out of the system and then share with the relevant parties. So let's go to the fifth limitation. Judd?
Yeah, one of the biggest issues that we see is that QuickBooks was built purely to be an accounting system, and NetSuite was built to be a whole business. Ilya, can you kind of expand on this and how NetSuite has taken that a step farther?
Absolutely. So let's talk about something called Suite Success. So what is Suite Success? Well, it's essentially a methodology or a collection of over 20 years of ERP implementation experience that is tailored to specific industry. Suite Success includes pre-configured systems with dashboards, KPI reports, roles, and add-ons with a goal of providing a functional ERP system from day one. Suite Success also includes a set of leading business practices that any organization may choose to adopt when they implement their NetSuite ERP. These practices are not randomly chosen. They're a byproduct of decades of consulting and business experience with multiple industries. So the point here is that with Suite Success, you're not building your system from scratch. You're leveraging leading practices, and this is why you're saving considerable time and money. So you benefit by a shorter implementation timeline and reduction in costs. Okay, considerable reduction in cost. So these are the different verticals covered by Suite Success. Now, do we, just a quick question for Jed, do we have time? Because what I wanted to do for this group, I actually wanted to go straight into NetSuite and show them an example of Suite Success layout, just so they can see what that looks like. And this is a wholesale and distribution Suite Success vertical.
Yeah, we do. We're actually, we're running a couple of minutes fast, so we do have a little time.
Okay, sounds good. So let me do that, and let me know if everybody can see my screen. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just a wholesale distribution Suite Success dashboard demo. So I've just logged in as a wholesale and distribution sales manager. So what I'm showing you here is their dashboard, what they see typically when they log in. On the left side, we see reminders. We see all the transactions, alerts, and things like that are relevant to that person. So because this is a sales manager, they will see opportunities to close. They will see leads, prospects, and customers without any sales activities. And there are a bunch of other reminders that you can actually configure here by going to Setup. Okay. So something's wrong with my internet connection here, but there it is, popped up. So all of these can actually be added to the right pane of your dialog box, and then these reminders will actually show in the reminder screen. And users, based on their permissions, can add all of these reminders. And if I show you if I look at this tile box, I can actually go to open opportunities, open quotes, just by clicking on this link. If I scroll down, I can actually show you the key performance indicators that are tailored to that role for that industry. Also, if I scroll down, I see all the relevant links based on the functional area. And here I can actually choose different functional areas. I can choose accounts payable, accounts receivable. So everything is on the tip of your fingers, really. Okay. Now let me change the role so that you can see a different view. So here I'm going to, pardon my long list of roles, but let me go to a purchasing manager, or better yet, let me go to a warehouse operations person. So as a warehouse operation individual or manager, I can see things that are related to my my work. So on a tile section, I can see everything related to inventory, so inventory adjustments, inventory transfers, creating a new purchase order, all of that information would be here. On the KPI side, I can see the inventory, I can see the orders, I can see the inventory for a certain period, so today versus the same day last month. So I can see how I'm doing relative to the inventory value. Okay. And then I'll scroll down, I can show you a KPI meter. So I can actually adjust this KPI meter to look at the inventory because this is relevant to me. And I can see that I reached my goal, I'm at 1.2 million. Okay. And then I can actually see in a portlet all the shipments there on time, so I can have a special report that I can access. I can also see order shipped percentage. So you can see total orders shipped, total number of orders, and total orders shipped from that total. So we're at the 92% order shipped or fulfillment rate. So I just wanted to quickly show you this. so that you can see how you can get all of that, obviously without any data, but all of this can be pre-configured for you once you run OnSuite Success. Okay, so I think that's what I wanted to show you. Let's go back to the slide deck. I'll let Judd talk about why AlphaBolt is a preferred partner for any client or any company.
Hey, actually, Ilya, before we jump towards wrapping it up, there were a couple more questions that came in. Question number one, does NetSuite have CRM capabilities for all industries?
Absolutely, absolutely. CRM is part of NetSuite. It's not integrated into NetSuite. It's part of the core functionality. So NetSuite can manage different stages of the entity. So from lead to customer, all of that can be managed through NetSuite. We also have Salesforce automation, forecasts, quotas, all of that can be managed in NetSuite, and it's all linked. Also, the transition between different stages of entities, from lead to prospect, and finally the customer, are driven by transactions that revolve around those entity stages. So as an example, once we create a sales order for a lead, that lead automatically would become a customer in NetSuite. So we have all of these flows and processes that revolve around entity records in the system. Awesome. Hopefully that answers your question.
No, that does. And then additionally, how does marketing work with NetSuite? And, if there is a module, does it cost more? How does that all work?
Marketing module is part of NetSuite. It can be turned on. It doesn't cost more. It's just a part of your NetSuite setup. It's a very powerful engine. Needs to be configured, obviously, and a lot of companies nowadays work with Pardot and different applications such as HubSpot. So you may need to configure those applications to work with NetSuite's engine. But NetSuite's engine is pretty powerful. Actually, it can do a lot of things right out of NetSuite relative to marketing.
Gotcha. Because it is a system in the cloud, how do you store documents within NetSuite? Let's say I've got a bill, I scan that bill, and I want to tie that up to a transaction. Is there a way to do that in NetSuite?
Yes, NetSuite has a file cabinet where you can store documents. We do not recommend using NetSuite as a data storage application because they're better and more affordable resources for that type of document management. But yeah, basic documents, PDFs can definitely be stored in NetSuite.
Gotcha. Another question we got was, it says, can you manage vendors and customers?
Oh, absolutely. 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 We can manage vendors. We can manage customers. This is a full the enterprise class ERP system, and you can do a lot of things around vendor record and customer record. You can manage multiple currencies. You can manage RFQ process around vendor records. You can set different price lists, price levels, quantity price schedules, contracts. There's so much functionality revolving around vendor records, and similarly around customer records.
Gotcha. And but going back to the storing documents in NetSuite, if you do not recommend storing them in NetSuite, what storage method do you recommend?
Oh, there are a lot of applications or a lot of platforms that you can work with, such as Box, SharePoint, where you can store your documentation.
Okay, but it's a fairly easy integration to NetSuite.
Oh yeah, there are a lot of pre-built connectors. and services that are offered
Okay.
to an SAS model.
Gotcha. I do have another question. I'm not sure if my company is big enough for NetSuite. What is the typical company size for a company to move off of QuickBooks to NetSuite?
So we think the sweet spot for NetSuite is anywhere between 4 and 100 million. So if you reached 4 or 5 million, you're ready for NetSuite because you're getting into, especially if you're a wholesale distributor, manufacturer, you're getting into this space where you need a robust system to manage your inventory. And there are some inventory management applications, but they don't work well with QuickBooks. They're just not solutions that can manage serialization correctly. And at some point, you'll need to use Excel to kind of connect all these disparate applications. So my advice is anywhere from 4 to 20 million, you're ready to start thinking of a robust ERP system such as NetSuite.
Okay. I need you to expand on the vendor and customers. Quote, we will work with outside employees that work through a secure portal to manage various tasks. Is that what you were referring to when you said it can manage vendors and customers?
So in NetSuite, we have a module that we can turn on, and it's called Advanced Procurement. So with Advanced Procurement, you as a vendor, so your outside employee or an outside partner, is able to, for example, go review all the requests for quotes, review all the purchase orders, make adjustments, and send messages through their specific vendor center that is free of charge for your company. So all you have to do is on a vendor record, you would have to attach a role and also give that vendor an email or based on an email, give them access to your vendor center so they can log into their vendor center or vendor portal and review all those transactions that are available to them.
Gotcha.
So that's
and
one way of doing it.
Does NetSuite have an employee portal also?
NetSuite has an employee portal as well. And through employee portal, they can submit timesheets, they can submit expense reports, and they can also submit purchase requests.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was a good load of questions we got. So that was really nice. Let's just kind of hop back into the slides. Why AlphaBold? We're recognized by NetSuite as one of the top partners in Southern California. We have been there before. We do have the experience. We have managed big, complicated projects and have had only customers to show that are happy for the work that we have done. We know manufacturing, wholesale distribution, architecture, engineering, construction, and staffing, those industries. Go ahead, next slide. We proudly refer to ourselves as Bold Enthusiasts. Bold Enthusiasts are dedicated to your success as a customer, and we are committed to help you grow your business. We are creating a Bold community, a platform where not only includes our partnerships with NetSuite, Microsoft, but a place also where you can collaborate with other customers as well. Next slide. Let's talk about next steps. Well, actually, before we do that, does anybody else have any more questions? We had a good amount of questions coming through, but if there are any more questions, this would be a good time to kind of throw them out there as we're wrapping up. And while we're waiting for that, I'll just kind of roll through this. Next steps, after the webinar, we're going to email you a quick survey. We want to learn more about the challenges that you guys are having with QuickBooks and why you were on this webinar. Why were you interested in seeing what NetSuite might have to offer? And our plan is that, I know that this was a long webinar. We covered a lot of material. Our plan going forward is to build our next webinar and a series of webinars based on your survey responses. So that is, if you had issues around multi-company entity, reporting, SOX compliance, if you let us know, we'll go ahead and we'll put together and schedule a more in-depth webinar based on those topics. And just so everybody knows, the poll is up right now. So next slide, if you could, Ilya. Well, actually, I guess that is our next slide. Well, that's it for today. We want to thank you for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you on our next webinar. Again, there is a poll that we just sent out, one question poll, which is going to drive our next webinars. Please reach out to us if you have any questions on what we covered today, or would like to discuss a project with us. We'd be happy to discuss that with you. So let's go ahead and do that. If we could open it up, we must close that. We've got to go ahead and close that poll if we want to show that last slide, supposedly, Ilya.
No, that's fine. That last slide is not too important. There's an address and the phone number, but I think the poll and the questions are definitely more valuable than the last slide. So thank you so much for your attendance, and thank you for your time, Judd.
Thank you. Thanks, Ilya. Thanks, everybody, again for joining us today. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.